This is a Comanche 250. About 5,000 of these airplanes were manufactured. And today we're going to fly it from Benton Harbor, Michigan to Chicago O'Hare Airport. And runway 22 left is being used today. Now we're going to pull up Navigav charts in order to give us a visual orientation as to the route. You can see we'll hit this little button, it'll show the position of our airplane in that purple triangle there. And that'll be useful for situational awareness. All right. A very handy chart to have with you. And reposition it out of the way, and we'll hide it at some point. That's about as small as the box will get. Now I'm putting the cursor on the Garmin GTN 750. It is a beautiful instrument and very expensive. And I'm going to put in a flight plan that takes us from Benton Harbor to O'Hare Airport, and we will select the procedure for landing and do some final checks and then take off. So here I am entering the flight plan. And the origin of our flight is KBEH, Benton Harbor, Michigan. And our destination is KORD, O'Hare Airport in Chicago, Illinois. And we are going to then select a landing procedure. There are many landing procedures available at Chicago. So we'll go to an approach here, get a list of various approaches. Here are all the runways you can land on. Instrument landing system, VOR, and RNAV. We're going to use RNAV 22 left. And when I do that, I want to be able to look at the flight plan as we go. So we'll load the approach, and then that brings up the entire flight with the waypoints indicated, and we will use that as we proceed with our flight. Now, one thing I was having trouble doing is getting the compass card to match the magnetic heading compass on the dashboard. And I was playing around with that quite a bit. Never did get it to work right. But I know now how to do it. Anyway, that's one of the snafus in this video. Okay, so now I have edited a bunch out of this video, and we are about in the middle of Lake Michigan. So we'll proceed from there. And now there's a very expensive instrument in this airplane. Engine control module, which you see in the square there where my cursor is. It shows 15 gallons per 29.8 gallons used gasoline. That's handy to know because the airplane holds 60 gallons, 30 in each tank. And you want to keep your eye on this. Now it's flying rich of peak, which means it's getting plenty of gas. And I'm flying 15.7 gallons an hour, which is about right. So the mixture control is right, and we're getting good fuel economy. Now there are the gas gauges. You never want to trust those. Do not trust. Trust, but verify. Fuel pressure is good, amps are good. Flying is just a lot of monitoring in many cases.
Chicago Center, generic November 823 Hotel, Lima FL 450. Generic November 823 Hotel, Lima, Chicago Center, radar contact continue.
Taking a look at that 750. We're quite a ways from the intermediate approach fix. 25 miles? Yeah. Take a look.
Envoy tree 788 traffic is 6 o'clock 4 miles at FL 245 generic. Report them in sight. Frontier flight tree 5. Lindbergh 450.
Things can go wrong in an airplane. Things can break in flight. They can cause big problems. For example, if you lose a alternator, that means that the system is depending upon your battery to maintain everything that's electrically driven. And you must have the ability to see the horizon on your instruments. You don't want to let that alternator crap out on you. Another thing is, if this battery quits, then you are in deep doo-doo. The reason people get into accidents is oftentimes they fly into the clouds and they think they're instrument rated, which they may be, but in real life they may never spend any time in the clouds. Their certificate comes from being under the hood with an instructor. And so what happens is they get into the clouds and they lose situational awareness, which means they don't know which way is up because everything is white. And as soon as that happens, the pilot gets all confused and the instruments all start going wild, and then you get into a panic and the aircraft starts down and it starts a turn, spiral turn, heading straight down, and you have loss of control in flight, which usually ends in somebody's death. And it's very common. So my father always flew in what is called visual flight rules, which simply means you can see where you're going. Now, if you're going to do ILS flying, you need to have reliable instruments that you can trust. Problem is, a lot of these older airplanes have what is called a venturi, which creates an air suction which drives gyro, which is a spinning mechanism that makes the compass headings and HSI functional. Your venturi could go bad. Your engine could develop problems. All right. At this point, I'm going to try to get the compass heading on the horizontal situation indicator. See the blue button blinking? I'm trying to get this instrument to line up with the magnetic compass heading, but I couldn't figure out how to make the darn circle turn. So I'm not set for the HSI heading. It's a problem. Very frustrating. Now I know what you do to do it in the future. You pull it. But I didn't know it at the time I was making this movie. Frustrating. You can see the autopilot is functioning. I have selected navigation hold. And you can see the shoreline coming up. You can see in the Navigraph chart we're getting closer to our first waypoint, intermediate approach fix. Pretty neat. Now on the Garmin 750 in the lower left corner, you can see 3 lines there. And it shows the number of miles remaining to each leg and the magnetic heading direction. Okay, this is the autopilot. So flying is mostly boredom, interspersed with moments of sheer terror. I'm flying at 2,200 feet. Now my plan is to fly under the glide slope and approach the glide slope from beneath. Now what would be interesting here would be to be doing this at night or in the rain. And just experiment with different weather conditions. At some point you want to get rid of this map because it just gets in the way. Okay, we're almost at the shoreline. Kenl, Kenl, our approach, intermediate approach fix. Get rid of that map. So when you're flying along like this, you really don't have much to do except monitor the instruments. Monitor your fuel usage, the cylinder head temperature of each cylinder, the manifold pressure, how much power you're applying to the engine, prop RPM to get the best cruise performance, and fuel burn per hour. Always checking on the fuel that remains on board. You always need enough fuel on board to make it to an alternate landing area, because the area you're going to go to may not be available due to weather or other conditions. So you need to have enough gas to get it safely on the ground someplace else. Now the gas that remains is going to be left. You'll be able to see the gallons remaining in two places. One is the gas gauge, at which there are two, because there are 30 gallons of fuel in each wing, a total of 60 gallons. And this airplane burns about 14 or 15 gallons an hour. Pretty typical for a six-cylinder engine, big Lycoming. So now we're kind of banking and navigating our way around. We're about to approach the second waypoint in this flight plan. And remember, this is on autopilot. All right. About three miles to the final approach fix. And when you get to that waypoint, you want to be at the right altitude to begin to look for the glide slope overhead. So in these next few minutes, I'll be fussing around with the autopilot. There are two buttons on the yoke. One is autopilot disengage. The other one is altitude hold. And now I'm fussing with that. We're getting pretty close to our final approach fix. When we get the final approach fix, you need to be configured for landing. Props forward, full manifold pressure, mixture in full, flaps down, gears down. But we'll come to that in a few minutes. Now we are starting to descend here if you look at the altimeter. And if you look at the instrument that's in the lower middle of the six-pack, you'll see a yellow triangle, and the yellow triangle will make its way down to the center of that instrument, which indicates that you are on the glide slope, which is 3 degrees. And with the right radio equipment, the GPS navigation system with the autopilot will fly you down the glide slope and keep you centered on the localizer, which is the direction you're heading, and make it easier to land. Here we go with the we're going to disconnect the
Chicago Center, Avion
altitude.
6 tree is at 9,200 feet, climbing F.
So I'm going to follow this triangle on the horizontal situation indicator instrument
Contact Chicago Center at 112.
and manually fly it
127, aim for United.
to the runway. Right, here comes the landing gear. Sometimes airplanes will land without flaps. In this case, that's what we're going to do, because this runway is so long. I mean, it's there to accommodate great big jets. So we don't have to worry about landing using the flaps. Now I'm still above the glide slope, but I am manually controlling this now. Well, there we are. This is not good because we are below the glide slope. What you do to correct it is to fly in the direction of the yellow arrow, down, which is what I'm doing. So in real instrument meteorological conditions, where you have a 400-foot ceiling, you wouldn't want this approach. You'd miss this approach. But I can see ahead, so we're going to go ahead with it. Continue. And this airplane flies so beautifully. I mean, it is such a great model in all respects. And you get that airspeed down just right so you don't float. Nice landing. And this flight simulator is so much fun. You can be as creative as you want and be entertained for hours and keep your brain active. So I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have, and we'll see you later.